hope you're all doing well. I had a request come through Patreon, and I feel really strongly I want to explore this with all of you. It's a really tough topic. I've actually been trying to introduce this video. I've been trying to dive into this multiple times, and it's very overwhelming for me. Even to just read the request and then just tune into the energy. I feel like there's just so many sensitivities that I have about this. One of the major points that I keep trying to express is about judgment. I'm going to read the request, and then I'll try very hard to tell you what I mean by this. Okay. Abbey, I've been hearing a lot about the dog-eating festival in China, during which dogs are ruthlessly tortured before they finally die and can be eaten. Is there anything you can do to help the souls of the dogs? I would also like to know why this is happening and what can be done to stop it, if possible. I actually didn't know about this festival. And I did a little Wikipedia background just to get my feet wet a little bit more. This is the part where I have a hard time. So I want to emphasize that every soul that comes here is an opportunity for us to learn and grow together. So when somebody is doing something that you deep down inside really disagree with, how are you going to respond to that? There's a lot of different ways that we choose to respond to things that we don't agree with. Just look at the States right now. There's a lot of protests and different ways people are expressing what they agree or disagree with, and it can get very violent even. The main thing is, how are we to judge? How are we to judge? See, even right now I'm really having a hard time. And it's not that I don't know how to talk about this topic. It's that I'm sensitive to whatever I'm tapping into about it. That's really getting in the way of me being able to express. I just really want you guys to keep an open mind here. We're learning. We're learning. We all are imperfect people. Imagine if you're an alien being who understands love on the 12th dimension and looking at a human being saying, oh my God, how can they treat each other like that? Well, the 12th dimension, they don't do that. They're actually supportive and loving and continuing to share the light and love to help nurture our hearts, heal our wounds, help us open our third eyes to see ourselves more clearly. And so we need to work on our 12th dimensional identities, really working on continuing to be a persona of light and love. Love towards other humans, love towards animals, love towards the planet, right? Again, I've just been trying to get that message out there. I'm going to relax now and tune in. Okay. So I'm going to look into, gosh, even again, I swear to God, I'm going to get started soon. All right, I want to tap into the dogs that are part of the experience. I want to tap into that part of the collective. I want to do healing, as much healing as I'm guided to do, and also to understand, okay? Okay. This is really hard on my heart, really hard on my third eye. It's really, really, really difficult energy. And this is coming from a person who is not choosing a judgmental stance, but I'm feeling very sensitive to the energy of those choices and the pain and suffering of those choices, and it's really hard for me to digest. Okay. Getting more stability here. All right, it's a really bloated belly. And it's basically got a button to hold the belly closed. And it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And there's a very, it's not feeding the actual Chinese people, it's feeding a demon. And this demon is starving for more and more. It can never get enough. The thing is, I'm looking at this demon, and it's a very sad thing to look at, because this demon is also in serious, severe pain. In the end, all demons are, because demons are broken souls. They're wounded souls. So when a soul becomes wounded, it carries a lot of pain, and it is gravitating towards more pain. So then it influences even more pain. How many souls have been wounded throughout the thousands of years of our human history? And where are those souls going? They're fragmenting and sticking around, and those wounds are just emanating. And we're feeling them. Thousands of years, thousands of generations of souls. Wounded souls. So this is a very wounded soul. It's important that you guys understand the value of love, unconditional love, like Jesus would say, okay? Like Jesus understands the value of supporting, loving, healing. Not persecuting, not judging, not ripping apart a soul that's already been ripped apart. Okay. This is really heavy. This is really hard on my neck and my throat. Really hard on my third eye, heart, solar plexus. So he's got composure. I can see beneath the surface of the composure. But the surface of the composure, he feels quite mighty. He feels quite elevated. He feels like an emperor in a way. And he eats off a silver platter. And it's a delicacy. It's dog meat, and it's a delicacy, and it's there's so many different ways that it can be seasoned, that it can be prepared. There's so many delicious ways that it can be consumed, and it can heal you. It's a gift. Dogs are a gift. Okay, this is even more complicated. So dogs have kind of it's like this natural light about them, this sweet, innocent love about them. And he's matter of fact saying that when you take that light energy and you put it through a process of suffering, now you can consume it. He's just totally full of it. It's just a lot of dense energy in here. I mean, he does sound like, he sounds like he knows what he's talking about, blah, blah, blah. I say, but you're taking light and then you're transforming it into suffering. You're taking what is like 5D and then you're turning it into 3D, and then you're consuming something that is poisoned. The light is poisoned. The light has been tainted. So how would that ever heal you? Just a moment here. There's a major shift going on. He starts to duplicate into different versions of himself, and he preaches. And it's almost like his voice becomes an echo, and it reaches certain minds that do hear it, do receive it, do believe in it. And now I have what looks like many different people that are expressing a message that they're channeling from him. And the message is spoken like the word of God. And it does actually become expressed as extremely believable. There's a lot more about this, because it's not just dogs. It's every single animal has a unique property. The snake, the dog, the insects, like every single animal has a unique property. So when that property is consumed, the human then gains the strength of that property. I'm still not understanding why, when the property of light is transformed into what is poisoned energy, what is demonic energy, how is that making you stronger? It's still not reaching me. And maybe because I'm on a different level, but I truly want to know how that's possible. He's starting to show me a buffet. And we're talking every type of animal, every type of insect. And he asked me if I have tasted every single living creature. And how every living creature has a unique property. He's basically saying the same thing, but he's really creating more of a banquet about it, more of an extravagance. Imagine going to this buffet and being able to consume the energy of any creature on the planet, and to gain the strength and power of that animal, of that insect. I mean, he is just all about this, and he will keep eating and 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 eating. This has really been imprinted upon generations of Chinese people, generations, about the value of eating different types of animals and how that animal meat provides very special gifts to the human. I mean, this is just repeating over and over and over again. I'm still trying to get the answer to how is torturing the animal making it better. He's talking to me about how humans are the gods of the planet. And then we were given all these creatures that we could consume them in order to become, it's like, in order to receive more of ourself. In the physical consumption. I mean, he's really showing that man and woman are gods of the planet. And that these animals are here for our bidding, our will, for whatever we want to do with them. I mean, he's showing me there's something about what he's saying here. It has to do with what creates... All right, so you have an animal, and that animal has an energetic identity. So that energetic identity is part of the blood of the animal as well. And so when you consume that energetic identity, physical, you are bringing that blood awareness, that blood identity into yourself to become now yourself plus that animal. It's still I know he keeps talking about this. This is why there's just so much lineage of other people saying the same thing. On and on and on and on and on. And he's just a spokesperson which has reached so many different minds over so many generations. And this is why it's still going on today. And it is very believable. And that humans are the gods of the planet. We have a right to do whatever we want with the animals. The animals were given to us as gifts for the gods to do what they please with the animals. That's what he's saying, okay? All right, so that's all I can tell you about that. I just want to figure out here what I can do to transform his energy, to, like, what is the next thing? I get the message. What's the next thing? He says that, again, more of the same kind of stuff. Do you see? He's just like, it's like constant brain. It's like, you know how advertising repeats the same thing over and over and over again until it gets into your system in ways that you didn't even realize it was? he's repeating the same thing over and 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 over again. So it gets into your system. So then that's all you ever know. That's all you can think about. It becomes real, right? The more the thought is used, the more the thought is expressed, the more souls that possess the same thought, the more people involved in expressing this thought, it becomes tangible. It becomes more of our reality. That's why advertising can become powerful the more that people are working together to support that language, that product. Now the product is really the God in the end. It's just like round and round and round. I'm still trying to get deeper here, but I have to go through these layers. I can't just skip from chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, and then just go to chapter 12. I had to go through the book, the layers of his expression in order to get to the root, okay? All right, so I'm going to look at what was the suffering within himself. And this is a male energy. But he also seems to be consuming the people who consume the animals. And so he, inside of himself, are men, women, animals. And he never gets full. This is really, really ingrained now, even into the DNA of Chinese people. I mean, it's in their DNA. It's in the structure of their society. It's really ingrained in their culture. So it would be really hard to see through it, because it would be passed down from generation to generation, and the children would be introduced to it, become the parents that introduce their children to it, and the grandparents, and so on and so forth. So they aren't looking at it in any other way than it was presented, which is something special, something sacred, something good. Okay? And I feel the spirit realm is wanting us to understand this, wanting this message to come forward so we can understand how this is happening and how that could be even okay. Because those of us who didn't grow up in the culture, it doesn't look okay to us, right? But there is a demon attached to this. What's interesting is those who participate in the celebration are also somehow being consumed by himself. But he has so many different versions of himself because he's passing his voice down generation to generation. So he's been around for a while. And it's almost like he becomes part of every person who participates in the consumption. So he is that collective. He's the collective of thousands of generations, so to speak. Like who knows how many. He's a part of that collective. So where you would say these are all individual souls, he actually becomes a part of the soul once they start to follow suit with that tradition. So now they're soul plus his influence. And who's to say that we aren't our soul plus other influences? Like religion can be very influential. And religion can inspire us to, kill other people in the name of God. Kill those other religious people that don't believe in our religion in the name of God. So that's what makes it okay, right? But you see, who's the demon behind that one? And now when we follow through with that demonic influence, we now become part of that demon. And now we pass on the tradition. So the demon then gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and now becomes a part of thousands. And how do we conquer that demon? How do we see this truth? So now there's those of us here in another part of the world that are looking at this cultural tradition and we're saying, oh my God, this has to stop. This is terrifying. This is horrifying. This is not okay, right? But what are our demons, So we kind of need each other's eyes in order to see ourselves. Where the Chinese people would say something about the American people, and we would actually need to take into consideration what they see. just like they should take into consideration what we see. We need to be helping each other out in order to see, because we're all on one level or another blind. But we are working on this. We are working on this. This is why we cannot be judgmental. This is why we can't be judgmental. This is why we need to help each other, but we also have to be listeners. We also have to listen and receive other opinions. And sometimes when we receive other opinions, it makes us really angry and irritated inside, and we don't want to hear it, right? It's just another thing we have to work on as a collective. I struggle with it just like everybody else, because it's hard. It's working on things is hard, right? Taking into consideration somebody else's opinion when you're really sure that you really need it to be this way for yourself, and they need to see it this way too, or whatever it might be, you know? It becomes an argument. Then it could even escalate from there. Okay. So he's this sort of emperor, a demonic being, is very proud of himself for what he's teaching the world. So he's still very great. But deep down inside, he can't be set free. So he can't be set free. That means that this is his experience for eternity until we stop. Which then is a pleasure and a nightmare at the same time. Because inside of himself, he knows the truth. But he can't live the truth because he's influenced so many people that have passed it down over a tradition of so many generations, that he now has to live through the nightmare of his own creation. So now we have to work on opening our eyes in order to set these demons free, which then is to set ourselves free and each other free. This is the most important message. I'm trying to get to the actual spirits of the dogs, but it's important that this awareness is expressed. Okay, the next thing I'm supposed to do is he has basically one button. It's like having a button-down shirt and going to the buffet, and then it's like, oh crap, I'm really expanding. I'm gonna have to unbutton the buttons and even undo the belt and let the belly out. Like, he's just got one button that's holding his whole belly together. So I'm cutting the button open in order to set all of this free. It's actually going to be extremely painful for him to turn this whole thing inside out. It's actually very scary for him as well, because it's going to be a very long process. Because he's been living in two extremes. This manipulative pleasure and actually consuming souls, etc. Also this awful, terrible nightmare due to his own awareness of his own manipulation. So he is at two extremes simultaneously. So once this is all set free, his soul is going to have to go through a process of bringing balance to all of that. In every dimension. In every single dimension. So that's why it's terrifying. But I tell him that that's what's changing, is when we become aware and we don't judge and we don't persecute, when we start to support the souls through their actual learning cycles. Now there isn't any real learning cycles because we all learned the lesson together. So we can all set each other free with no more pain and suffering. Zero pain and suffering for all souls based on every single choice that every soul in every dimension has ever made, even the terrible demons. We can't hold grudges. Because once we hold a grudge on another, the grudge then will always be held upon ourselves. So we'll always be stuck in a loop. That's why you can't have a grudge. That's why you can't hate anybody. Can't judge anybody. If you can hate that person, then you should be hated as well, right? Because that's the balance of everything. The balance of everything. It's the reflective mirror. I hate you, I hate myself. I'm judging you, I judge myself. I hold a grudge upon you, I hold a grudge upon myself. We're all trapped. Every soul has to let go at the same time, literally. That's why we need to continue to believe in each other, love each other, and support each other through each other's choices. Because violence and anger and destroying other people's lives, war is the loop that never goes away. And time is just layered upon time, layered upon time, layered upon time. And we're experiencing every single layer of time for all eternity, past, present, and future. And it's rippling across the infinite universe, and all souls in one way, shape, or form are experiencing it. We are a part of the body of God. What can we do to help? We need to find a loving approach. We have to. We have to find a loving approach. All right, again, I'm still trying to get to the dogs. But in removing the button, it exposes everything within, but still it isn't complete yet. So it's not for me to just say it's done now. It's for us as a collective to work through this and to help the demon, to help the animals, to help the humans, to help us grow out of it without grudge, judgment, without persecution, war, hate, etc. Now let's see if I can get to the dogs yet. There's different levels of this dog collective. In fact, they're quite angelic. They're like pure angels. Every one of them is like angelic. And they'll never stop. They're like an army of angels of love. Like army of love, not army of hate. They won't ever stop coming to help change the perspectives. So what are we going to do to help these angel dogs? Are we going to go kill, hate, protest against, or are we going to say, what can we do to bring awareness, to bring clarity, to bring a new vision? All right, that's one layer. That's one level of these. It's a dog collective that is participating in this. That's one layer of their identity. There's other layers, okay? Because they're tied to this now indefinitely until it completes itself. They're participating in experience until it comes full circle. Just like we are participating in experience until it comes full circle. It's very, very hard to get in. It's like a wall up. This is one of the darker sides of this dog collective. This is the suffering side. This is what it reminds me of. It's just they're oh man. They're inside of a stomach, and they're all kind of decayed a bit, but they're kind of aggressively barking at each other. And they can't get out, but they're in so much pain. It's like the pain of being slowly digested. And they can't get out of the stomach. So they're kind of forever stuck in this digestive pain. Now, what's interesting, there's a lot of layers tuned into this. I'm touching one of these angel dogs, which is, this is more of the wounded side of this angel spirit, is actually turning into a human being. And the human being's rubbing its eyes are burning, and it says, where am I? What's going on? And I ask this human angel dog, and I say, Well, where do you think you are? And he stands up. He has a blue shirt on and black pants. There's other dogs now that are following suit. They're turning into humans. And they each have a different colored shirt on, like yellow or red or and black pants. Now their skin's starting to melt, actually. As they're looking at me, their eyeballs are melting out of their faces. And they aren't allowed to say anything. They're not allowed to speak. And they're just melting. And I mean, it's absolutely horrifying, but they're melting into the stomach. They're like melted bodies that never really die. They just go through another transformation of hell. I asked them if they are ready to let go now of their pain. It's almost like they are servants of this demon. Like they're showing me yet another lifetime where this demon was an actual incarnate emperor, and these were all servants of that emperor. And this energy has just reincarnated itself into this dog eating festival. And they're still servants of this demonic emperor. Which means the emperor tells them what to do and then they do it. They don't get to decide for themselves. How many different levels of society are like this? The general tells you what to do, you do it. You don't say no. And now you are a servant to a demonic inspiration because war is always demonic. But yet there is sometimes an important need to survive, I suppose you could say. They're showing me how everything that we see in our society incarnates itself into yet a new sort of introspective experience, like another incarnate experience and connection in a way that you couldn't even fathom. And we're just going into a new layer. And I'm asking them, well, how does this stop? How does this stop? The servants, these angels, these dogs, how does this stop? And how does this emperor ever stop? But they remind me the emperor is both in the nightmare of its own illusionary pleasure and its true reality, knowing the nightmare it is creating, and it can't escape until this is over. And it isn't in peace at all. It's at two severe extremes. And it has to go through the incarnations to watch the servants now again, and now he's consuming them. Like, it's just a nightmare. I feel like this is a message to all of us to really think about our choices, to really explore the loop that we are stuck in as a collective, to explore other ways that we can choose differently. We also have to be patient. It's an unbelievable lineage. Because even the people that are consuming the animals are stuck inside that. I mean, it's all connected. But those souls are participating in it. The dogs are participating in it. This went back even a long time ago. And it's still going around and around and around in circles. In different reflections of itself. But it's interesting because the spirit realm is all matter of fact about it. It's the human that gets emotional. It's the human that's mind just blows up when they try to conceive of the meaning of this. It's terrifying to the human mind. Because we all want to be set free from this loop. When is that ever going to happen, right? And how many disturbing ways are we within a mirror, within a mirror, within a mirror, within a mirror of something from some time? That's why we need each other's eyes, and that's why we need to be open-minded. That's why we need to say, what can we do to help? Is there another way we can go about this? How can we help each other see? What can we do to bring balance to the situation? And we have to work as choosing balance, not choosing one over another. This is a really powerful time to be exploring balance, because there's protests of one over another. And the balance of race, the balance of how we are loving each other. Like, this is just getting very loud. Judgment and even chaos and... But this then will teach you whatever it needs to teach you. But that's all I'm supposed to do. There's literally, it's not my calling. There's no souls that I'm supposed to be releasing from this. It's just a learning for all of us. It's perspective for all of us. And that then is healing the situation, because it's inspiring us to choose to behave differently moving forward in our life, because the story itself changes us. It reaches some part of our soul. It reaches some part of our eyes, our third eye, in order to help us see in a way we weren't seeing before. Therefore, we are healing the situation over there by opening our own eyes and understandings in a new way. All right. Well, thank you all for joining in. I'm sure there's going to be some interesting thoughts, perspectives on this. Okay. Thank you for watching. If any of you are interested in exploring a psychic session with me, please visit me at my website at abbeynormalswisdomquest.com. I'm also doing lots of live streams on Patreon. If you're interested in joining, it's patreon.com/abbeynormalswisdomquest, and I'll put information in the description for you if you're interested. All right, have an amazing day, everybody.